Returnal. Is it good? Yeah. Before I start, unfortunately since completing Returnal, my PS5 had a firmware crash. Nothing to do with Returnal, but this crash caused all my save files to be deleted, so that's why all the gameplay is captured from the start of the game. This game is so much fun, despite being quite hard and punishing when you die. People say this game is a roguelike, but I've never played Rogue, so I don't know. So when you die, you reset back at the start, unless you've defeated one of the game's bosses, in which you can then teleport to another area. And there are some things like weapon upgrades which stay with you through loops. There was a big variety of weapons to use which randomly spawn, and at first I thought I would just stick with the assault rifle, as I thought it would be the best weapon. However, whenever it didn't spawn, I did grow an affinity for the rocket launcher sort of weapon, which looks similar to the boom shot in Gears of War. And I especially loved it when I upgraded this weapon and it became an automatic rocket launcher. That felt so good. Also, like Gears of War, this game has an active reload mechanic, which can speed up your reload if you get the timing right, but if you miss it, you'll have to wait a little bit longer. There's also malignants, which are bonuses, which will give you something good, but you will also get a negative stat, and in most of my runs I tried to avoid these, unless the penalty was small. The story was so creepy, and while you can guess what's happened halfway through, as the game pretty much tells you, it's still fun to see it play out. Also, there's a mid-game twist fake ending, which I thought was so clever and also terrifying, and I've thought about it a lot since completing it, but I won't delve any deeper for fear of spoilers. This game has the best use of 3D audio on the PS5, and the soundtrack is iconic. It feels epic. The DualSense controller is used expertly as well, with the triggers having 2 resistance depending on whether you want normal fire or secondary fire. That was so good. The graphics were very good, but when you realise how many particles and how many enemies are on the screen at once, the graphics are actually incredible, and the frame rate was rock solid throughout the whole playthrough. Which is great. For a twitchy shooter like this, you want your frame rate to be solid, and the gameplay feels so responsive. There is a co-op mode, which I would strongly recommend against playing this game in co-op. I played the first 2 bosses on co-op. This game is so much more scary when you're alone, and you can get fully immersed into the game. Fortunately, my friend had a game-breaking bug which kept spawning him under the map during the boss battle, so from that point on, I went solo. Once I went solo, I found the game much easier, and I beat the final 3 bosses first try, which always felt weird to beat the bosses first try, because it would take me hours to get to the bosses' rooms. Lastly, I'll say about the bosses is, despite beating the last 3 on the first try, I've never felt so much fear and excitement during an offline game. Mainly I think this is because it would take multiple runs and hours, and you think, well, if I don't make it this time, it's going to be an hour and a half wasted. I need to do it. And that would just get me so excited and nervous. I'd be making mistakes because I was so nervous about messing up the boss battle. And I know I said lastly, but just one more thing about the bosses. Without spoilers, there's a boss called Hyperion, and it is one of the greatest boss battles of all time, and I can't think of a better one. If you've played Returnal, let me know of a better one. And the soundtrack of this boss battle and where that soundtrack is coming from, no spoilers. I'm trying. I just wish I could scream the spoilers right now. It's the soundtrack is epic, and I've listened to that Hyperion boss battle soundtrack so much since completing Returnal. It was so good. Great weapons, great bosses, great diverse biomes, great gadgets, great weapon upgrades, just so much greatness in this game, and I really loved it. That was Returnal, and I'd give it a 9 out of 10.